true flipped classroom is that the students receive all, if not the majority of the instruction at their own pace, at their own leisure, at home in a lot of cases, or on their phone or on their tablets. And then they come to the classroom to put that information to use. They come to the classroom to do activities and to work with their peers and to be able to really focus on the application of the information that you've given them, rather than the way that we traditionally do it, which is we lecture, we teach, we do things in class, and then we send them home to do that stuff as homework. And a lot of times what we see, especially in math, is we see students who go home to a house with zero support when it comes to math. Not because their parents aren't supportive, but because their parents haven't been in a math class in how many years. And so what I was running into was a lot of frustration from kids who were going home to do homework and would run into struggles and have no avenue for support or ways to continue once they hit that roadblock. And so the idea of the flipped classroom is to turn that completely around. They go home and they do something that they don't have to put as much effort into. They are participating in a video lecture of some kind, or even some sort of interactive tutorial online, so that when they come to class, they've already heard the lecture, or they've already done whatever it was that they needed to do in order to show up and now put that stuff to use. So instead of having students use a bunch of level 1 types of questions or answer a bunch of level 1 type questions, they can really get into those higher depth of knowledge questions in the classroom, where they have support from their peers and from you, the teacher, who is supposed to be that mastery person for them. And so what I tried to accomplish was a true flipped classroom. For several reasons, we ran into some roadblocks, and at the time that I ran into them, I really needed to keep going. I didn't have time to focus on managing all of those different issues that came up with kids who, I don't have Wi-Fi when I go home. I am grounded from my phone, so I can't watch the video. My parents told me that they won't let me, or whatever. I didn't really have time to deal with all of those issues. So whenever it came to that point, and I think, was your son Camden in my class at that time?
Yes, he was.
So we had this discussion at parent-teacher conferences. It was really frustrating on my end because I put so much time and energy and effort into it. I had created tons and tons of videos for my kids to use at home. And whenever we ran into an issue where it seemed like 1 or 2 kids was causing all the rest of us to have to stop and call it quits, it was really frustrating. But I found a way to make those videos useful and meaningful in other ways. So I used sort of a modified flipped classroom now, and I use it for odd circumstances. So anytime that I'm going to have a substitute, I'm going to use a flipped classroom video, because I need my kids to stay on track with whatever it is that we're doing. In the math department, we follow a pacing guide, so I need to stay on the pacing guide, and I need to make sure that whatever I leave my kids is meaningful. I want them doing something in class that is similar to what they would be doing if I was there. So I've used that. In fact, last spring I went to the NCTM National Conference in San Antonio, and I was gone for 3 days. My kids used the flipped classroom videos in class. So they weren't truly using a flipped classroom. They weren't watching the videos at home and then coming to class to use them. But it gave the substitute something to do. The substitute was in charge of showing the video. And then what I got back from substitutes in terms of feedback was they loved it, because then when the kids were working on their homework and they had a question, the substitute could help, because the substitute had sat through now 3 times of that particular lesson. But that was good. It had classroom management taken care of on the substitute's end as well. And so what I want to show you is an example of that. This is a video that I created when I truly was using the flipped classroom. But I have used it in many cases. In fact, a couple of years ago, I used this exact video, totally fly by the seat of my pants, because I showed up to school on the second day of school with no voice. And so I had this video from a couple of years past and was able to pull it out. It was exactly what I needed my kids to do. So let me set you up a little bit. This is the Smart Notebook software that comes with the smartboards, but you do not have to have a smartboard in order to use it. So I run this on my computer. I created the presentation in it just like you would a PowerPoint, and so that's what you're looking at, is the presentation view of it. This is exactly what my kids would have in front of them in terms of notes that they would be filling in as we went through it together in class. And then what I've done is I've taken this in the Smart Notebook software. They have a recording device, and it records everything on your computer screen, whether it's in the Smart Notebook software or not. So I can start the recording, minimize this, and go to YouTube and show something, or show an example from the online textbook, or whatever I need to do, and it records my entire computer screen. While it's recording, I am doing basically like a voiceover, so you don't see me. I'm not standing in front of a tripod like you would traditionally think of when you say that a teacher makes a video for something. I'm sitting at my desk, and in some cases I'm sitting on my couch at home with my laptop in front of me, and I have an external microphone that's hooked up. I have in the past used just the microphone that's on the Apple earbuds that come with your phone that has the little dangling mic. I've used that one. It's not as great of quality as the one that I'm using in this video, and I did pay probably $50 for the microphone that I use in this video. The only other thing that I have is a pen tablet. It's a lot like the smart slate that is used through smart notebooks or smart boards makes them, the little slate that you can walk around your classroom and write on your smart board. I have something similar to that, but it's at my desk and it plugs into my computer. But it allows me to write so that it's actually legible, so that the kids can read it, and I can talk at the same time, just like I would be doing if I were teaching them in class. And so I'm going to let you watch a little bit of the video. We're not going to watch the whole thing. I just want to kind of give you an idea of what it looks like.
At point, line, and plane, three of the most important words that come up in geometry. So I know you guys are pretty familiar with point and line. Plane is going to be the one that's a little bit different than what you've seen so far. So point means that it has no width or depth. It has no dimensions, and so we normally name it in geometry with a capital letter, whatever letter you want to use. I'm going to just call it capital P, point P. A line, another one you're familiar with, only in geometry, be sure that you know that it continues forever in both directions. That means it has to have those arrowheads on either end. And in geometry, it's named with a lowercase cursive letter, so I'm going to call that line L. The last one, plane, is the one that students normally aren't as familiar with. A plane is a three-dimensional figure, kind of hard to draw on paper, but it extends forever in every direction. That's what's important about it. It doesn't stop. So even though when we draw it on paper, it looks like it stops, it actually continues forever. Think of it like the floor in the school. It extends from room to room to room. It doesn't just start and stop within one classroom. A plane is named with a capital cursive letter. So if you wanted to name it.
Okay, so I really just wanted to give you an example of what the kids view, either from home in some situations, they're watching it in class together. I tell my kids up front, I didn't make these videos for public use. So while they are public on YouTube and anyone can watch them, they're really geared for my kids. So I say things in them all the time, like, don't forget that you have a bell work quiz next Friday, or stuff like that. If I know that I'm recording it for a specific absence, then I will say things like, okay, pause the video, you're going to work the next 2 problems on your own. When everyone's finished, then restart the video. Those are directions more for the substitute. So I tell my kids from the beginning, if I am recording from home, you are going to hear my dogs bark. That's just life. That's life at my house. And so they get used to it. There was a time, I have a 2-year-old, so there was a time in the video that he woke up from a nap, and when he wakes up from a nap, he just stands up and screams, "Mama, Mama, Mama," over and over again. And so I had to just pause it and go get him. But they know that, and I think that that's one of the things that my kids love about it, because in a flipped classroom, you can just as easily go to YouTube, find somebody else teaching it, assign your kids to watch it. And I've done that before as well with videos that I really like. But I don't do that very often because my kids love being able to see me teaching. They want to hear the same kinds of words and the same jargon and the same everything that I use on a regular basis. So that when they come back to class and I say something that the teacher or whoever was presenting in the video didn't say, then they get confused or whatever. And so sometimes that's good for them to get exposure to those other things. But in a lot of situations, they want it to be me. They want to hear me telling them or referring back to something we did at an earlier date or that kind of thing. One of the things that I was telling Mr. James was that one of the things I love about this is that I have kids who would go back and watch every single video again the night before a test. They have access to it all the time. If I have a kid who's sick, I don't have to tell them anything. They know exactly, all of these videos are posted on my YouTube channel. I don't have as many posted as I own, because most of them I don't want them to be public. I want to assign them or give them to a substitute or whatever. But at one point in time, I have a channel, and they had every single video at their disposal. And within 2 weeks of the videos even being posted, I had like 700 views on these videos. I'm like, where are these people coming from? Because I don't have that many kids in class. But they wanted to watch them over again. They wanted to see them. I had kids that, like I said, were absent, and they would watch the videos on their own at home and come to class, and it was like they were never gone. And so it can have a huge impact. What I really wanted to talk to you about was really just the other uses for it. Is not that it's not always feasible to use a completely flipped classroom and always have kids watching videos before they come to class. But it can work. I've used this same kind of thing, even assigning it to students to watch on days when we've had a pep assembly and our schedule at school is crazy and I don't have a full class period, but I had planned for a full class period. And so I have assigned them the video to watch at home. They come to class, we still get everything accomplished that we needed to accomplish, if not more, just by utilizing our time a little bit differently. And so those are the main things. I talked a little bit about what I've used. You don't have to have a pen tablet. If you teach a subject area where you don't need to be able to write on whatever it is, if it's just a presentation that you need to talk through or something along those lines, you don't have to have that technology. I think that the pen tablet that I bought was about $75. And so then I also told you about the microphone. You don't have to pay for a microphone, but you're going to get better sound quality if you do, and I paid about $50 for that. That's all that I put into it, and I've used it a ton. I paid for that with like the pieces of a grant that I got after doing Summer Bridge. And so we're talking at like $150. It wasn't a huge investment when you're talking about technology. Technology can get expensive in a hurry. But the software is something our district has the license to for free, and it does all of the recording. So I didn't have to have a video camera or anything like that. And then same thing with Google Classroom. I'm able to assign it through Google Classroom or just put it on YouTube that our kids can access. And it's so convenient. It really didn't require a lot from my end of the deal except the initial setup of actually making the videos. And so anytime that I would get to a new unit, when I had, if I had 7 videos that I really needed to make, if I only had time for 5, then I can go to YouTube or I can go to the teacher channel or some of those resources and find good quality videos that are similar to how I would teach it and assign those videos instead. So kind of blending the two ideas together. Are there any questions about any part of it? No, it's kind of a lot. Yes, ma'am?
On average, how long are your videos? Like,
So-
what do you suggest for if
Michelle,
they're going to
can
be
you see
watching
how long
them
that
at
one
home?
is?
8 minutes.
It was 8.
8. Okay, so
8 was
8, I think 11 or 12 was probably the longest that it ever was. I never tried to keep it to a minimum or to set a time limit. I always just taught it exactly how I would teach it in class. The only difference is, if I'm showing it to my kids in class, I'm going to pause it. And I'm going to say, okay, you guys try numbers 1 and 2 on your own. I'll give you about 3 minutes, and then we'll check them together. And so you eat up a lot of time in class when you're pausing in between the instruction time part of it. And so the video part of it is strictly just the teaching of the lesson, whatever the notes part of it is. Everything else is supplementary to that. But I would say that's probably average 8 to 10 minutes.
Have you tried to, any of the videos that you've made in the smart board equipment or technology, have you ever tried to link that to Google Classroom?
Yes, so what I've had to do first was to upload them to YouTube. But I
Okay,
can
that's
do
what I was
that through
wondering.
my C&P Schools account.
Right.
And then I've just created a channel, a YouTube channel. I've uploaded the videos to my channel, and then I can link them straight to Google Classroom from YouTube.
So I guess that would be nice to know is how to set up that YouTube and how to set up that channel.
For sure.
Yeah, because we don't know how
So
to
let
do
me
that.
see what I can show you.
Why are you laughing? Because I don't know how to do that and I can't teach you. Is that how I should say it?
No, it's just.
Okay, so just on YouTube, if I go to sign in, then up here where that little person is in the top right corner,
Mm-hmm.
whenever I click on that, I can go to my channel. I don't know what this is. It does it in my classroom too, and I always have to switch it to a different account. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's something I've done or.
So would I have to set up that channel, or it's already there?
It's always gonna be there. It just won't have any videos on it until you start adding videos. So like that's what mine says, because I started mine before we moved to a Google School or whatever, before our email was Gmail, back when it was Two Trees. So my channel shows that it doesn't have any content or any videos on it. And so once you're there, then you can add videos to it. I can upload to them, and I'm not real sure where they're. I think it's just in the edit layout is where you can add videos. And so all I did was record them on my computer or laptop at school or at home, either way, and then have them saved on my computer just as a video file. And then on YouTube, I just uploaded that video file.
So I would need a YouTube account to do that? Or did
You
I
can do
miss-
that through your school account, because YouTube and Google are the same now.
Oh.
Yep. So that makes it a little bit easier. Before, I ran into a lot of issues because we weren't a Google school, and so I couldn't sign in with my personal Gmail account, this makes it a lot easier to be able to do that. Yes, ma'am.
So how did you get a license to download Smartboard on your home computer or laptop?
All it took was asking a tech person. I won't throw out anybody's name, but I just asked a tech person, and she said that if I'm using it for school use, that it wasn't any issie.
So she just gave you a password?
It's a key.
Okay.
Does that sound right, or am I
we
throwing
have a
someone under
district.
the bus?
We have a district right to that key, I
It's a
think,
school.
so it's not a.
But what I'm saying is.
It's our personal.
Right.
Like if we wanna do it
I don't
at
have a
home.
laptop in my house. Because I tried to do this last time
Right.
we talked about it, but I didn't have any access to the
Right.
software.
She said as long as I was using it for school use, that it wasn't any issue to have it on my personal computer. But I did have to bring it, and then she had the key and typed it in.
So it's only an option at home if we have a personal laptop. I can't put it on my desktop at my house. I don't own a laptop.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think you probably could. My understanding is that we have a district
Right.
license for that, and so that usually a district license for even some of the office products and stuff. If you're using it for school, you have rights to that on your home
On
computer.
even on
too.
your
So
home computer.
I think she could probably give you.
I think it's just, it would be like, you would need to go to the website and download it, and then
Right,
she would
yes.
just have, or someone would just have to give you the key, whatever the product key is.
And I know we need a key. I just didn't know if that was
Yes.
possible for us to actually have a key.
Yes.
to it.
Yes.
So I'll put that. I'll contact her tomorrow and ask her about that. Just how we go about doing that. If she can just email the key, I'll email it out. Or if she has to give it to you personally, I'll find out tomorrow and ask her about that.
Stop it,
Because
Liz.
that would
Would be lovely.
So what about just overall student learning? I mean, did you feel like the kids in your class made things easier for them? Did you feel like
Absolutely.
it provided
Absolutely.
more
What I
learning
would
opportunities for
do,
them?
what I would do each day is come back in and do just a quick 2 or 3 question quiz as part of the bell work. That was over just the basic level of what they should have gotten from the video. And it just gave me an idea, and it also kind of brought them back too, so that they were on track. They knew what they were supposed to have watched, because sometimes they say they don't remember. But that kind of brought everybody back together. That gave me an idea up front whether we were all on the same page or there was a misunderstanding, something we needed to go back over. But what I would hear so much from kids when they were watching it before they came to class is they would come and say, okay, what are we doing with that? And to me, that's the point of math, is not that you know how to solve an equation, but what are we doing with that? What are we trying to accomplish when we know how to solve an equation? And so that was the cool part, is seeing kids want to put it to use. And so then that pushed me as a teacher to then have to come up with ways to keep them excited about it. We did a lot of project-based learning and a lot of formative assessments because they were so interested in putting what they had learned or seen in the video to use. And so, I mean, from there, the sky is the limit. It's huge for kids. It gets them excited. One of probably the coolest things to kids is that I would tell them, I don't care if you watch it the night before. To me, it's not homework. It's just something you have to have done before you walk in the door. So if you go to a class before this, where you know you're gonna have the last 10 minutes of class, and you wanna watch the video then, as long as you've seen it before you walk in this door. I don't care when you watch it. You watch it on the bus on the way to school, you can watch it when you're on your way to softball game out of town, whatever, I don't care. Just watch it before you walk in the door. And if you watch it once and you don't understand it because somebody was yelling at you about making dinner, then watch it again. And that just, it frees up so much of that rigid mold that we seem to fit ourselves in. And so that was good for kids. That's good for kids.
If you have colleagues out that are teaching the same thing, have they asked to say, hey, can I show this video?
I haven't ever, but I've always been open to it. Because why not? And I think that's what Jennifer and Tammy are looking at, is being able to use this at the middle school to do, for their Algebra 1 classes, to make the videos and use them together, so that it's not you making 100, it's each of you making 50, putting them together. And it's good for kids to be able to see someone else teach it. That's not always the same person, or hear it a different way, or hear somebody else's version. Or maybe you're really great at one thing and she's really great at another, and you can collaborate in that way. I think it's such a unique thing to be able to do. Absolutely. Do you have a parent's take on it? I know we talked a little bit that year at parent-teacher conferences. I'm not sure how many years ago that's been now, but.
Yeah, I don't know about a parent's take. We didn't, Camden hasn't really had this in any classes
Right.
as of yet. But, I mean, to me, the ability, first of all, for you to have a lot of things that you teach that can be used year after year, that can be used by students. Just the ability, if a student doesn't get it the first time, they can't rewind what the teacher said in class, but they can if it's a video. It just gives them the extra reinforcement they might need on a subject they don't know.
What about that idea of teachers sharing? Because what a cool thing in a large district like ours, if teachers would share, you could save a lot of
Absolutely.
hassle.
A lot of the legwork.
Well, you know, and I was just thinking, if we've got 2 geometry classes going on at one time, and I've got some learners that have been struggling, and I've got some learners that have really excelled, I can split them up with my co-teacher and say, hey, we're going to put them on your room. The highest learners, work with them on some new techniques. I'm going to take this other group, we're going to re-watch this and this. We're going to go over this again together. I mean, you could really co-teach and separate your learners based on ability with that same kind of.
You can also make sure that you send them to, like, the kids who have modifications, make sure you send those videos to
their teachers, or to their acting teachers.
to make sure that they know
Absolutely.
how you taught that lesson.
Absolutely.
It would be nice too as a parent, if your kid was struggling, you could watch the video yourself.
Exactly.
And then you
Exactly.
could figure out why your kid isn't getting whatever the concept is.
Exactly. For sure. It's true. Very true. Lots of really neat things. And just in the years since I've made these, I've run into so many really weird situations where I thought, I have a video for that, or, you know, whatever, same thing, like just being able to go to that conference out of state, being able to be gone for 3 days without losing any instructional days because I had already made the videos. I didn't have to do any extra work, so